Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, we're going to be talking about relationships as I am joined by relationship experts, aka the soulmate coaches, Mark and Lynetta. They are going to be talking about how to transform your relationship to the highest level, to even a soulmate level. So here we go. Mark and Lynetta, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you for having us. We are honored to be here.
Why don't you guys start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Okay. So you could probably say we're experts at how not to do relationships because we had a lot of previous relationships and we're in our 50s and 60s now. And some things were awesome and some things were horrible. And both of us just had this drive to kind of find the ultimate relationship. And we just kept learning what we needed to learn and practicing the techniques that we learned. And unfortunately, a lot of trial and error until finally, when Lynette and I met a little over 8 years ago, we were like, wow, you're the one. Like, we both looked at each other and saw that each of us had done our internal work for at least 20, 30 years each. And that we were willing to own everything as opposed to pointing the fingers, which both of us had in past relationships. And that was like, yeah, this is what we want. And then it's been an amazing journey every year since for like 8 years now.
And every relationship, we don't call our past relationships failed relationships because every relationship informed us of what we wanted and what we didn't want and helped us create this list, if you will, about what we absolutely had to have in a relationship and what we could not tolerate going forward in a relationship. So that was a stepping stone, each relationship, to learning about the ideal relationship. And that's what created this one. Mark was doing that in his life before he met me, and I was doing that throughout my relationships until I met him. And that's what created this beautiful relationship.
We had both taken our past relationships. We had let go of all the pain of it. Though actually, I should say, no, we've continued to let go of any past relationships.
It's a work in progress.
It is. Life is a work in progress, as you know.
Yeah.
And we had both made our lists of what we wanted in our ultimate relationship. And then when we met each other, we saw that each of us was that.
And then to see what happens in a relationship like this when we're both supporting each other it's not like we had all our ducks in a row and we had cleared both of us have experienced past childhood trauma that we are both still working on. But what we do in our relationship is we team up together to work on those, clear them, heal them, and then create a whole new life that we want to create together. So we co-create our life together as partners. And when you have a partner like that you can do, you can grow exponentially far greater than you can when you're alone.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
What makes you guys think that you're qualified? You call yourself soulmate coaches. So tell us what qualifies you to be soulmate coaches.
You know, the biggest thing, one of my marketing teachers said, the way you become an expert in something is you declare yourself to be an expert. You know, there's all these certifications, and Lynette and I have done, decades of transformational work, this modality, that modality. So we could say, yeah, we've done all these things, and they have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you have to get that you're the real deal. You're not fake, you're not parroting somebody else's stuff, that what you have is real.
From your own experience.
Yeah.
Life experience itself. Because all the studies and all the credentials are great, but if you don't have that life experience yourself, you don't have it in your bones.
Yeah. And it's partly both other people recognize it in you as well as you recognizing it in yourself. I'll share just one thing that was really funny that happened a few years back. Lynette and I were in a Target doing a little shopping, and we were just being ourselves. And sometimes, in the middle of the store, I'll just grab her and, give her a kiss or look into her face or whatever. And
they were applauding.
And this family, 2 parents and 2 kids, just saw us being ourselves and being loving and joyful. Yeah. We're always joking around about what's going on. And they literally started to applaud us in Target. Yeah. So we were like, oh, okay.
So we inspired them. They were inspired by watching us. They saw something that they're like, oh, that is really beautiful. And who knows what happened from there. They could have gone home and created this beautiful experience together as a result of seeing 2 people that are in that level of love. They could feel the energy of it. It gives you a context. If you never see a relationship and never have a context for what it could be, you don't know what's possible. If all you saw in your background was your parents fighting, or, they barely tolerated each other, how can you create a loving, relationship without seeing a context, somebody giving you an example of what's possible?
Yeah. So us being the real deal and sincere about it is one aspect for why we could, quote, call ourselves experts. But the second thing is really just our results. We've worked with people in our coaching, and they will get incredible results. I mean, often pretty much from every session, but we had one woman we worked with when we first launched our soulmate course, and she was with a guy. It was a good relationship, but it wasn't really on that level. And she decided that he wasn't right, and she actually broke up with him. And then before our course, it was like a 12-week course, before the course was over, she met a new guy who she ultimately married, and they are an incredible match.
Yeah.
And
you can see it when soulmates meet. They even have a similar energy about each other. And Mark and I have that too, where you think we look alike, but it's really our energy is very compatible, very very similar. How we move through the world together, and it brings a lot of joy to meet your match. Somebody that's that gets you, they're on the same page, and they're like, oh, I see you. And they, we see each other, and we're like, oh my gosh. And that's what this that we worked with. It was just amazing to see them meet each other and go, oh my God, you're my soulmate. I've been looking for you all my life.
Yeah. Does that answer the question?
That absolutely answers the question. So tell me, what is the most important relationship tool that you offer to your clients?
That would have to be acknowledgments. Mm-hmm. That is our primary tool. In fact, we use acknowledgments in almost every single coaching session we do. And what acknowledgments are, it's getting your greatness, that sometimes we have trouble to see that in ourselves. And it's seeing everything that could be construed as negative as the exact opposite of that. We may, Lynette and I both have trauma in our past, and we have certain ways we adapted from the past. And we had certain behaviors that we did then, and some of them have carried through our entire lives until now. And, now we'll look at that and say, you know what, I really don't want to be that kind of a person anymore. Like for me, I learned to keep my mouth shut as a kid. Like if I spoke up, I would get whacked. So, for a lot of years, I was basically a hermit, didn't want to talk to people. And then I didn't want to be that way anymore. And it's been a lifelong process of coming out of that and not keeping that behavior. But what we do is we would acknowledge that my shutting down my voice was actually a way to protect myself. Because in that untenable situation I lived in at home, there was maybe no other way to survive and come out somewhat intact.
Yeah.
So Lynetta would acknowledge the fact that for me, speaking up has been a lifelong challenge.
And thank goodness you did what you did so you'd survive and be here now. And now you can clear that with acknowledging what he did to protect himself and how that was loving to himself. Instead of making it wrong or bad, we actually acknowledge the greatness in that skill he learned.
Right. So acknowledgments on one level is taking all what we might call negative and finding the positive that's behind it, that's underneath it, and acknowledging that.
And then you feel great about what you feel really great about it, and you're empowered then to make the changes and go, okay, well, that was one way to do it. Now I'm not in that kind of danger now. Now, how do I want to respond?
I want to create a new me who loves to talk with people, because then I can help transform their lives. I mean, that's why we're on this podcast with you right now. The me from 30 years ago, I never could have done this. Never.
No, he was a computer tech for years where he just hide behind the computer.
Yep.
Absolutely. So how does a person know that they need outside help with their relationship? How would a person know that?
Yeah, great question.
Great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you feel like you are stuck in patterns with each other, that you keep seeing things repeating over and over. I'll give you an example. For me, anytime Mark would say, honey, what time do you think you might be ready? So, I can know when to be ready to go. And what I took that as he was rushing me, and I would get really sharp and impatient. And he recognized that I was getting triggered. So he did not react other than sending love, just being totally holding me in a space of love. And I realized that was a pattern that kept coming up for me, and that he was triggering it, but he's not the cause. He's not the root cause. It's somewhere back in my past, something happened. And I had to go back to that point and find out where that first started. And Mark helped me to get through that and clear that. So if you see patterns like this, where you're getting triggered over and over, you're like, your temper is coming up, or you're like, why do you keep,
you're angry, you're feeling hurt, you're feeling triggered, as we call it.
Or you do one of the things, you fight, flight, or freeze. Those are all signs of being triggered. And if you're in that loop, you'll notice it's a reoccurring pattern, and you'll get stuck in that loop, and that you need help, outside help, to know how to work through those patterns.
Right. And also, as you mentioned, like if you're dating and you keep attracting the same type of wrong person, that's a classic sign that you need a little help to recognize why that's going on, what's behind it, how to clear that, and how to create a new type of person that you can attract into your life.
Okay. What's the biggest advice you can give people who are going into new relationships?
I'd say if they're really want to take it to that soulmate level, what you might do is everybody's coming in with their baggage. We've met a few people who claim they don't have any baggage or trauma or any hurts from the past.
But then you see a lot of signs where they're getting hurt all the time.
Yeah.
So that's a telltale sign. Something's happened in the past that's not yet.
So everybody's got stuff from the past. It's just part of being a human being. We're not making it wrong.
No.
But to recognize what those things are, and to then get tools that when they rear their head, you'll have the tools to deal with them. That would probably be our biggest advice. Mm-hmm. And one of the tools we use is there's something called the Gottman method. It's a couple, they're both therapists. They've been doing this about 40 years, and they did a ton of research about what has relationships work or not work. And they have their own materials. And they have an assessment. And one of the things we'll often do when we get a new couple who wants to work with us is we'll have them do the Gottman assessment. And then we'll get the results. And it will literally show us what areas are going to be a challenge for them. And then it will point to certain exercises that we'll have them go through, and then we'll typically do like a weekly coaching session to review it, as well as using our own tools that we've come up with, so that these things don't catch them by surprise. And then, years down the road, it's like, we're thinking of getting divorced. Can you help us? Like, you don't want to wait.
People that are attracted to each other, if they haven't done their internal work prior, you're attracting similar patterns that you had in your family with whoever your parents were, whoever raised you. You'll be attracted to somebody that fits into that whole pattern, and they will be also attracting you, who has the same patterns. So, have you ever heard trauma bonding? People often come in and they'll be in relationship. Yeah, they'll be in a relationship with somebody who has the similar trauma, and it gives you a lot of compassion for each other, but it can also push each other's buttons like crazy. So you need those tools to help you okay, what do we do when we both get triggered?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you had to sum up your philosophy on relationships in one sentence, what would that sentence be?
I would say, do your internal work together.
Yeah.
And you can have the most awesome relationship ever.
Yeah. That's a good one. I like that. Yeah.
That definitely is a good one.
Yeah.
Talk about the most unconventional relationship advice you've ever given someone.
Unconventional.
You could say wildest.
Yeah. Do we do anything that's not wild? Trying to think what's normal that we do. Oh, well, I'd say there are certain things that are really common that we don't believe in and don't use. Like a lot of relationship people will talk about compromise, for example, or accommodating, or sacrifice.
Right.
For us, those are no words.
Yeah.
What we do instead of those is something called workability. And the reason we do that is sacrifice or compromise is basically where nobody gets what they really want. Mm-hmm. So we don't think that's a win-win for the long-term future at all. I mean, who wants to sacrifice themselves for a relationship? It doesn't give you a warm fuzzy inside.
Right.
So instead, the gold standard we use is something called workability. Workability is where I acknowledge what Lynetta's needs and desires are. She acknowledges what my needs and desires are.
And we work together to find out how we can each other have exactly what we want.
Right. But the thing behind this is there's no judgment. We've taken all the good, bad, right, wrong out of our relationship. So we don't I don't judge Lynetta. If she has a desire that's not the same as mine, I don't say, well, that's wrong. You shouldn't want that.
We have a great example of this.
Oh, do we, honey?
A great example of this. Mark loves dance. What would you call
social dance?
Social dance.
Folk dancing, social Spanish dancing. Yeah.
And I love yoga and ecstatic dance. And both of those are solo. It's like I like going internal and moving my body the way however my body wants to move. Whereas Mark likes the steps. You know, you're being taught steps and you do those together. And
flowing with another human being where the two of you are moving as one. For me, that's just so juicy.
And to me, I find that so challenging.
Torturous, honey.
I even cried through some of the going to these because I wanted to do this with him. He finds so much joy from it. But I have a real big challenge with it. So we have found, instead of compromising or sacrificing, Mark is going to the dances, learning the steps so he can come home and show me in a real slow way, which is the way they teach it too fast for me in a class. If I'm taught really slow, I can get it and then I can have fun. So he's going to learn the dances. I'm going to yoga classes while he's going to his dances. Mm-hmm. So we're both getting what we want. And then Mark's going to teach me some of these dances at home. So we will also do them together.
Right. And occasionally, if a certain teacher I know is really slow and easy to follow, I'll invite Lynetta to join me, and she will. And usually it's good.
And then I enjoy it.
Yeah. And sometimes they have like a beginner's lesson followed by an intermediate lesson, and she'll just go through the beginning and then she's had her fill. And then she'll go out to the car and she'll watch a movie or whatever on her iPad, and I'll do the intermediate lesson.
Yeah.
And
that way we both get what we want.
Right.
Nobody feels like they're missing out.
Yeah. So I'd say, yeah, discarding the whole compromise, sacrifice mentality and instead going for workability, I'd say that's kind of unconventional.
Yeah, it's more than workability though. Now I'm finding we're finding the joy. Like both of us are out for being full out joy in our life.
Right.
And, so workability is the minimum, joy is what we're really after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what are the 3 biggest relationship mistakes most people make?
Pointing the finger at the other person. If you hear a lot of blaming, shaming and blaming, that's a big, that'll take down a relationship. What else would you say?
Yeah, not recognizing your own responsibility for your triggering. It's kind of the flip side of what Lynetta's saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, own it. Own that. Oh, yeah, this is something, you're not the cause of it. I'm going to go, this is what I'm feeling, and I'm going to work through.
Yeah, classic way we say this, just to expand slightly, is, things do come up between Lynetta and me.
Yeah.
So what we say is, I'm feeling triggered because of whatever. And I recognize you may be the trigger, but you're not the source. The source is in my past. So I'm not blaming her at all. I'm not, as she said, getting angry, not getting hurt, even though I may feel those internally. Mm-hmm. I recognize it has nothing to do with her. That's my recreation of something uncleared from the past. Mm-hmm. So I will say something like that, or she'll say something like that I'm triggered. And then we will team up together to help whichever one of us is being triggered. So instead of the finger pointing at each other, you did this and you did that, instead it's like, I'm feeling this. And then, how can both of us help me to clear this feeling?
And then another relationship mistake for me, although nothing's really a mistake because I'm learning from every single one of them. But one is that I thought I had to be attracted, like physically attracted to, and I was attracting guys that were gorgeous on the outside, but man, did they have, there was alcohol issues, drug addiction. They didn't want to heal, and they were blaming me for a lot of it. And I was kicked into codependency. And so now I recognize that attraction comes from wanting to be with someone who has the similar patterns as my mom and dad. There's a familiar feeling. There's a part of me that wanted to be with somebody that reminded me of home. And home for me was chaotic and dysfunctional. And so if the guy was doing that, I mean, as long as he looked good on the outside, because that was also important in my family, is we looked good on the outside. And so as long as he looked good on the outside, but he had similar patterns, I was attracted to him. And now I know that attraction doesn't always mean that that's love. Like, oh, I have to have this butterflies in my stomach and weak at the knees. And I didn't have any of that with Mark. It was actually very peaceful and calm. And I might even called that boring in the past. But now I get that my attraction was really toxic. And now I have a healthy view of what attraction for me now is he willing to do his inner work? That's my new attraction, instead of how does he look?
Mm-hmm. You know I'm gorgeous.
Oh, yes, he's stunning.
One other mistake I'll just add is going in thinking you're going to fix the other person. That's also another biggie for mistakes.
Yeah. Or seeing their potential, what they could be.
Yes, if only you can create them to be that.
Right.
Mold them.
Right.
That would be another mistake.
Yeah. When you get together with somebody, are they already the person that you would want to spend your life with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you guys have any current upcoming projects that you're working on that people need to know about?
I'd say the ongoing is just for people who are listening to your podcast to say, you know what? Either I don't have the relationship of my dreams, or the one I have isn't there, and I'd like to take it to there. And where do I go that I can get going on it? Because I want that, and I'm not willing to settle. If you're settling in your relationship, that sucks. There's just no other way to say it, because you don't need to settle. You can have the most awesome, juicy, honoring, loving, supportive relationship where you feel seen and heard and understood and cherished.
So an answer to that question is get a discovery call with us.
Yeah.
Just go to the website, get a discovery call. And right now we're focusing on being on podcasts so people can get to know us. So those are the events that we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like this one, this is an event.
Yes.
So the next step would be go to our website and get a discovery call and get started.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and throw out that website.
Okay, so there's two of them. One is the gottmanmethod.com. Gottman's Gottman, the gottmanmethod.com. And that's particular people who may have heard of this already, and they'd really like to jump in, take that assessment we mentioned, which is really great for everybody, and then use both their materials and our supplementary materials and coaching. So that would be one website. And then the other website we have is the soulmatecoaches.com. And then we have some free materials there that you can get started with, a little survey of your own and some freebies. And you can also sign up for a full coaching program as well. So either of those websites.
Okay, close us out with some final thoughts that you have. Maybe if there's something that I forgot to touch on that you would like to talk about, or just any final thoughts that you have for the listeners.
I will say this. Yeah. The reason Lynetta and I are doing this is we truly believe that if everybody had a relationship like we do,
Their own version.
Their own version, not our version.
Not our version.
But a soulmate level relationship, all the problems in the world would go away. There'd be no more fighting, attacking, crime, wars, everything. I mean,
everyone would feel loved.
If you had this level of love in your life, everything would be worked out. That is so clear.
Really, now looking back, I don't know how anyone does it alone. And why would you if you could have this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Soulmate Coaches, Mark and Lynetta. Be sure to check them out. If you know of anybody that needs relationship help or relationship coaching, follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. Take advantage of what Mark and Lynetta are offering. If you have any suggestions on guests or topics, subjects, cjackson102 at cox.net is the place to send them. Please be sure to tell a friend about the show. Mark and Lynetta, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much for hosting us.
Thank you so much. We appreciate being here.
Yeah.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.